Nobody steals from me and gets away with it. Joe stood motionless. So much of this did not seem real. It was as nightmarish as tossing that handful of earth on poor Edwin's casket. She swallowed hard as a wave of desperation washed through her. She had to see this through, no matter how terrible it seemed. Finish it, once and for all. She touched her thumb to the hammer of the gun and felt her insides lurch with dread. Are you ready to die, Zeb Stone? Because I'm here to send you to hell, where you belong. Marshal Fletcher Collins led his horse to the Dodge House Hotel and flipped the soft leather reins around the hitching rail. He reached into his shirt pocket for half a carrot and stroked Prince's warm muzzle. Here you go, boy. I might be a while. I gotta make the right impression my first night on the job, if you know what I mean. Fletcher stepped onto the boardwalk, nodding to the cowboys sitting on the hotel steps. Howdy, boys. Mighty fine evening. One man tipped his hat. Welcome to Dodge, Marshal Collins. Heading down to the Long Branch for a drink? Not tonight. I'm on duty. One of them called after him. That never stopped Marshal Peavy from filling his holster. The other two exploded with rowdy laughter. Fletcher stopped and turned around. The laughter quickly died. Straightening his black Stetson, he continued on his way. A buckboard wagon rumbled by, lifting a cloud of dust. When the clatter of hooves faded into the night, Fletcher listened with a keen ear to the hoots and hollers from the dance halls across the street, the boisterous banjo music, the laughter and foot-stomping. He passed in front of Mueller's boot shop and glanced through the dark window. Looked quiet. In fact, he probably shouldn't be wasting his time over here in the business district. He should be enforcing the gun ordinance over in the Comique, where there was bound to be some fool packing iron. Fletcher paused on the boardwalk for a moment, then decided to finish this block. He walked by Zeb's store and glanced through the window, but tensed when he saw Zeb. Backed up against the wall with his hands in the air, facing an armed robber. Fletcher hugged the brick wall just outside the door and drew his peacemaker. He checked the cylinder for bullets, then clicked it shut and peered inside again. The thief looked like he was just itching to shoot. Fletcher took a deep breath. No do-si-do for him tonight. Dodge City was a trial by fire for the new marshal, and he sure didn't aim to get burned. With growing panic, Joe stared into Zeb's dark eyes and rubbed the clammy pad of her index finger over the trigger. She clenched her teeth together. She had to do this. He paled visibly, perhaps realizing she meant business. You won't get away with this. I have friends who... I know what kind of friends you have. They're gutter swine. Joe pressed the barrel of the gun harder against his forehead. He squeezed his eyes shut, not so fearless now. It was a moment of terror he greatly deserved after all the pain he'd caused others. A film of perspiration appeared around his dark mustache, but his voice remained calm. I'll give you anything you want. Just don't shoot. Good Lord, she couldn't do this, but what choice did she have? Zeb cautiously opened his eyes. Just then, the door flew open and slammed against the inside wall. The doorbells clanged and clattered to the floor. Without thinking, Joe drew her second weapon. She aimed it at the flash of movement in her peripheral vision, hearing the man's commanding voice before she could focus on him. Drop the gun. Now. With a heavy weapon in each hand, Joe glanced back and forth from one opponent to the other. The stranger moved closer. She saw his black Stetson and his long brown coat open in front, but it was the barrel of his gun that held her attention, a small black hole pointing directly at her. I said drop it, he yelled. You drop it or I'll kill him, Joe replied, deepening her voice as best she could without it breaking. Do that, kid, and you'll be waiting in line for a coffin. Perspiration dampened Joe's forehead. Her bandana began to slide down her nose. If it fell, she'd be done for. This ain't your fight, stranger. I own every fight in this town. He opened his coat to reveal the steel badge pinned to his brown leather vest. Joe's stomach did a sickening flip. Who in tarnation was this man? She'd been counting on Marshal Peavy taking his early evening nap in the jailhouse. She'd assumed the stranger was one of Zeb's men. Feeling her fate grow more precarious by the minute,